Welcome back to the Daily Flash, and in today's Financially Speaking, we are going over the retail landscape and how it has changed a lot over the years, with some businesses that have been around for decades, almost hundreds of years, shutting their doors, while others have merged and expanded. Here with some insight into why retail businesses are merging and finding other ways to keep the lights on is investment banker and contributor for Forbes.com, Richard Kestenbaum, a partner with Triangle Capital. Welcome, Richard.
Hi, Matt. Great to be here.
So why are these mergers and acquisitions happening so much in the retail market right now?
You know, retail is the front line between business and consumers. It's where business sees the change in consumer behavior when tastes adapt as time goes on. And so sometimes that means companies are very successful if they hit it right and they're giving consumers what they want, and sometimes not. And very often it's somewhere in between. In order to be so adaptable, companies sometimes need to combine, or investors want to get a return on their money while their business is successful in order to continue to adapt. And that makes retail an ever-changing environment, and change means mergers and acquisitions.
But what makes these acquisitions succeed or fail? Because some of them just fall apart, or they're tremendously successful.
You know, it's such a funny thing. I always marvel at it. Our business is mergers and acquisitions. I've been doing it for decades. And what you find is that buyers usually pay a lot of attention to the numbers, totally understandable. And the numbers they pay the most attention to are the numbers that happen right before the transaction is completed, the performance of the company right before the transaction closes. What I find interesting is when we see transactions fail, it's usually because of culture. Culture is a very hard thing to assess, but I don't see so much attention being paid in due diligence to the differences in culture between companies. And that's the critical thing. When people have different expectations after a transaction closes and companies combine, that's where failure begins. There are other causes, but that's the biggest one we ever see.
Do you have an example of something controversial that may happen in retail mergers and acquisitions where it just didn't work out, or they were having a fight internally?
Well, I don't want to talk about other people's failure, but let's talk about controversial mergers and acquisitions. Your viewers may be familiar with Albertsons and Kroger, who are trying to merge, and the government is trying to stop them. They're saying that we have to compete with Amazon and Walmart, and those are not traditional grocers. And so we, Kroger, Albertsons, they say, need to have more scale to be more efficient and combine. And the people, the attorneys general and the FTC that's trying to stop them are saying, but this could mean a rise in prices for consumers. And so it's in the courts now. And we're going to have to see whether the companies will be able to merge.
And how does the government feel about allowing these deals to happen? Because we've heard of them kind of putting the stop to a few of them out there.
Sure. Well, the government is so often in the business of politics, and that's a hard thing to predict. And I'm not in the business of politics. But the government's feeling about it changes depending on the deal and changes from administration to administration. And so there is a need to protect consumers, and there is a need to allow the most efficient things to happen in the economy in order to increase employment and general prosperity and household income. So the government is in a somewhat conflicted position. How do we understand what's going to happen in the future in a way that will maximize outcomes for everyone in accordance with what we believe politically? And it's changing all the time.
Well, that's great information, Richard, and we'll be sure to have all of that on our website at dailyflashshow.com, and you can check it out on our YouTube page also. Just search Daily Flash Show. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Matt.